to do that.
Oh, no problem.
And baby, they were crunk.
They all down.
All right, so first what we'll look at is what we call our sample key behaviors. Is what we actually look for and when we're observing in the classroom.
Okay.
So basically it goes over all of the measures that will be assessed whenever the assessor comes out.
Okay.
Okay, so first I want to start with woman responsive style. Out of the park. I mean, amazing. It was inviting, it was warm, you weren't monotone, you were filled with excitement, you displayed lots of nonverbal cues, lots of smiles, claps, just excitement or whatever. And then you made sure that you noticed when children needed your assistance with something. For example, one of the little girl's bowls fell out her head and she didn't say anything, but she brought it to you and you was like, oh, okay, you know, and you put it back in her hair. She turned to walk away. You were very helpful for the children who needed help when they were picking their fruits and their vegetables. You gave them time to do that. And the ones that weren't so sure about it, you even asked the other children to help them, you know, identify it. I would say also comforts. When the child, she didn't say anything at first, she came up to you and just was like her finger or whatever. You was like, well, are you okay? And I think she just wanted you to see it because after you said, are you okay? She said yes, and she walked back to her seat. So you acknowledged her and everything, and she was fine. You guys did adjust your own behaviors to make sure that, you know, you were meeting their needs. Especially for dealing with specific children, some of your children who did not know what a fruit or a vegetable were, you actually asked those questions and engaged with them to say, okay, if it was a fruit or a vegetable, or allowed their friends to help them. Okay. Then we'll go to language and support, or whatever. There was lots of talking, and it wasn't just you talking, you were actually allowing time for the children to respond. So you were asking them questions and allowing them to respond, and then when it came to those children that didn't know or whatever, you didn't just say, oh, it's a carrot. No. Do you remember what it is? Remember we talked about it? Or you asked the friends to help them. So you actually gave them time, and that's what we look for, that wait time, because sometimes it just takes them a little longer to process things. Let's see, what else? So there was lots of praise or whatever. I do want to applaud you in that. The only thing I would say is be more specific with your praise. Okay. Because a lot of times we praise them and say good job. And sometimes some kids need to know what they did a good job at doing. Okay. For example, Miss Michelle, you did a great job. And what? Exactly. So to make that more specific, you would say, Miss Michelle, you did a great job at doing your circle time this morning. Okay. So that would literally solidify that you know that you did good at a specific task. So that's what we say when we want you to be more specific with the praise. But all around the board, yes, praise is there. We know they understand it. We know that they get it on a daily basis. We just ask that you be a little bit more specific with it. Because, you know, what you actually applaud them for is what you get more of. So, yeah. Let's see. So there was some language added to their, you know, what they would say. I did hear you repeat after some of the children sometimes, and then you would even ask a question. So I do like that, or whatever, that you actually allowed them to say something else about what you were asking. You can tell that you guys communicate throughout the day. You know, I know it's not just a one-time thing because somebody's watching, so that's very good that they are in a routine to know what's going on, and when you communicate things, they know what's coming. You guys did use descriptive language, fruits and vegetables. You allowed them to identify them and to match them or whatever, and I also heard you ask them if they remembered it. So it's a concept that you introduced previously, but you are still bringing it up so they can, you know, continue to recognize them. All right, so there were plenty of opportunities for them to talk to you guys in your large group, even when they were at the tables waiting for a transition or waiting for the next activity to take place. What else? And it was lots of back and forth. We look for those 3 to 5 exchanges. Like you said, you ask a question, you wait on them to respond, and then you did add if it was a fruit or a vegetable, or if they like those things sometimes. So yeah, just make sure you give them that back and forth exchange. and you did a lot of repeating or whatever, and that is something that they look for. Because sometimes a child can say one thing, like I did hear a little boy say something and you weren't sure of what he said at first. When you repeated it back to him or whatever, then he was like, yes, that is it. So that's important as well, because sometimes we can interpret things one way just like they can. And repeating it or whatever, it assures what is being said. Play-based interactions and guidance. You guys were playful. You all had playful attitudes. It wasn't monotone or boring. You guys were very interactive. You guys were actually, allowing them to move. They weren't rigid. It wasn't like, no, you stay here or whatever. They were free or whatever to be able to, express themselves. So that was really good. And you supported their playful attitudes and everything. You sang songs. I really like that you actually used songs for your transitions instead of just saying, you go here, you go here, you go here. Very used to those transition songs. And I even like that you used the transition song while waiting on the materials to be prepared or whatever, or handed out, or you going over your expectations, because a lot of times during those times, the wait time is when you see the most disruption or whatever. And it wasn't long, it was short and concise. You guys participated in on the play. You guys praised together, clapped, smiled, laughed, or whatever, and that's very important, because you don't want to play with nobody who doesn't want to smile or laugh or be engaged. So it's very important that you do that as well. You met children where they were. Like I said, if they didn't recognize something, you actually gave them a chance to think about it. And then you encouraged the other children to help them or whatever, so they didn't feel left out. So I really like that as well. Okay. Supports for children's regulations. So it really wasn't any behavior that I could just say, well, she doesn't do this or she does do this. I did hear where some of the rules were stated. Remember, these are walking feet or whatever. And I did notice when your teacher said helpful hands to one of the students. She monitored the behavior in the classroom as well while you were doing the instruction, which is a really nice balance, because a lot of times if both teachers are trying to monitor behavior, it loses the instruction time. Nothing happens. And then that causes all the other children to be waiting on the behavior issue to be diminished, and they're not learning anything. So that was very good. Let's see. So as far as providing short explanations or anything, I didn't hear that one. No, I didn't hear a lot of this because there weren't any behaviors or anything to correct or whatever. But I could say, when you're talking about feelings or emotions, for example, when the child pointed to her finger, you could have asked her, how does it feel, or something like that, just to label an emotion or to provide explanations as to why it might be feeling that way. Or I could give another example. If peers are arguing about something and you're talking them through it and asking, okay, well, how do you think that made them feel or whatever. So those are different strategies that you could use when talking them through things or acknowledging feelings and emotions. But like I said, everybody was excited, so I did not witness that. So that's just what I'm telling you. Okay, and when I move on to instructional formats and approaches to learning, we think about, is your schedule, is there a balance? Is it only teacher-directed activities, or do they have time to play? Looking at your schedule, I do realize that you guys have a balanced schedule. You have different times where they are doing things on their own, and you also have instructional time where you guys are actually doing activities with them. So that's good. Routines and transition times are used as opportunities for incidental learning. Now, you guys sang a song. You guys sang 2 songs actually, and one of the songs was dedicated towards what was about to happen or whatever. So I really like that too. So basically, with it being dedicated toward what's about to happen is part of their routine, so they know what's coming. And then you also, when you got ready to do your first activity, you called their names and told them to push the chair in. So that's another one. They're recognizing their name and they're following 1 to 2 simple steps to be able to go to the next activity. That repeated exposure, again, we talked about earlier. You Talked about what you guys are talking about for the week. You recall what you did the day before, the vegetables, the fruit, and you also talked about the shape, the color, and the number, or whatever. So it was just letting them know to continually provide them with that exposure for what you're doing. All right. So that is all I wanted to say, but I did want to ask you, how do you think things went today?
I think we're pretty good.
Pretty
I'm
good?
always nervous.
Yeah.
I'm always nervous, but I think it went pretty good. I think it went real smooth.
Okay, I will apologize. I really do think it went smooth as well. So if it was something you could do differently, what do you think you would do differently?
I think I would give them, like when we was doing the fruits and vegetables, I think I would ask them more questions about the fruit and vegetables.
Okay.
And stuff like that.
Yes, you could have asked more open-ended questions.
Yes.
Like some of them were closed, but you turned some of the closed-ended questions into open because you kept asking things about it and it wasn't just one answer.
Okay.
So yeah, that's good. You can ask more questions, ask more open-ended questions to get them, going a little bit more to really see what they know about the specific fruit or vegetable, or if it correlates with their home life or anything like that. Okay, so basically what you just said is that you wanted to ask more questions, and this is a resource that I have that can actually help you with that, asking open-ended questions. So basically the definition is that encouraging children to reflect on emotions with questions that require more than a yes or no answer. So we talked about how you can relate that back to maybe something they do at home, maybe something that have they tried it at school, or where they've tried it, or how it's prepared, or anything like that. So you can prompt their actual thought process to get those questions flowing. Okay. But like I said, this is basically a list of strategies that you can use. When I mentioned earlier to you, labeling emotions in real time. So what you can do is identify and name the child's emotion as it happens to help build their vocabulary. Okay? So I think those are the two. Oh, and another one is validate all emotions. Or because it's not just identifying, you gotta validate them. You gotta let them know that their emotions that they're feeling, they're okay and they're healthy, and it's okay for them to actually express those things. Okay. All right, so other than that, basically, if I was to say, what are two things you're gonna focus on from today, which two would they be?
I would say labeling emotions in real time and asking more open-ended questions.
All right, so you know what you wanna go and work on. So what I will end up doing is updating the CQIP for the center, and on that CQIP, I will put these specific things in the actual CQIP for you to work on, so you'll have a copy of it as well.
Okay.
Got any other questions or concerns? All right, well, feel free to reach out if you do, and thank you for taking time to meet with me today.
No problem. Is this fine? Or
This is yours.
Okay. All right. Thank